Tonight we begin with something unusual, something quiet, and something that almost nobody is talking about openly. Over the past several months, major U.S. banks have been carrying out system updates that are far bigger than the typical overnight maintenance customers are used to seeing. But here's the interesting part: these updates are happening almost silently, without public explanation, without detailed press releases, and sometimes without any noticeable announcement at all. That level of secrecy has triggered curiosity, speculation, and genuine concern among people who track global financial movements. And the timing matters. These upgrades are taking place during a period in which many governments, central banks, and financial institutions around the world are adjusting their systems to prepare for faster digital transactions, stronger verification methods, and more connected global banking networks. So the question becomes, why now? Why the silence? And why are so many banks updating at the same time? These questions lead us into a much larger story, one that affects currency exchange policy, international banking communication, and the future of cross-border funds movement. By the end of this report, you will understand why these quiet changes matter and what they might signal for the near future. When big banks update their systems, they normally announce it in advance. They tell customers which services will be temporarily offline. They explain what the maintenance is for. They communicate clearly so that no one is surprised, but what's happening now is different. These updates are quiet, internal, and often completely hidden from the public. That's unusual, because large U.S. banks rarely make big changes without clear messaging. Silent updates typically occur only when banks do not want outside attention or public speculation. And that alone is enough to raise flags for analysts. Financial systems do not evolve randomly. Banks do not spend money, staff hours, and technical resources on upgrades without purpose. And when multiple institutions update around the same time, that suggests coordination, not coincidence. Some analysts believe these updates point toward a shift in how banks verify transactions, track currency movements, and operate behind the scenes. This may include stronger fraud prevention systems, upgraded network communication, and improved cross-border exchange methods. Whatever the reason, the pattern shows that something significant is being prepared quietly, and the public will likely learn the details only after the changes are fully implemented. The banking world doesn't operate on impulse. Every decision is driven by strategy, safety, and future planning. When a bank updates its system, it usually has everything to do with preparing for the next decade, not just the next month. Right now, U.S. banks appear to be strengthening digital verification networks, cross-institution communication, and internal security measures. These are the same systems that regulate how currencies are verified, how foreign notes are processed, how exchange data is stored, and how financial institutions communicate with one another. And here's the interesting part: these upgrades are happening during a time when global banking regulations themselves are changing. Many nations are adjusting to digital settlement systems, faster payment rails, and updated anti-fraud technologies. So the real question becomes whether these U.S. updates are part of a broader movement preparing for global financial modernization. When banks work quietly, the details remain hidden, but the pattern is clear. Something large is being prepared, and institutions want their systems ready before the public knows what's coming. For those who follow currency news, including viewers who track the Iraqi dinar or other global currencies, the biggest concern is understanding whether these system updates are connected to anything involving exchange procedures. Now, to be clear, banks have not confirmed any major currency events of any kind. Nothing official has been announced, but what we can say is this: preparation matters. Banks prepare early, long before anything is made public. They test systems quietly because financial infrastructure must be stable before announcements go out. That doesn't mean anything specific is guaranteed. Instead, it simply means banks want to be ready for whatever is coming. Whether it's new regulations, updated currency verification technology, or changes in global settlement networks. The pattern of quiet preparation is something we've seen before major system rollouts in the past. The financial world protects itself by preparing silently, then announcing publicly only after everything is set. So for anyone following global currency trends, these updates indicate movement, not stagnation. Something is shifting, and banks want to ensure they are not caught unprepared. Let's talk about timing, because timing is everything. These system upgrades are happening during a period of global financial restructuring. Governments are modernizing their banking systems. Central banks are integrating faster communication methods. Many countries are upgrading compliance requirements and verification layers. So the fact that US banks are performing silent updates now fits into a larger global pattern. But the important thing to understand is that banks don't rush. They prepare slowly and deliberately. They update only when necessary, and they never reveal the full picture until every component is tested. This leads analysts to believe that the quiet timing is strategic. Banks want to ensure there are no security issues, no operational challenges, and no communication failures once the new systems are fully live. If major updates are happening now, it means institutions want to be ready for something in the near future, something that requires precision, coordination, and smooth execution. And whenever preparation is this coordinated, it signals that a larger financial shift could be underway. Whenever we talk about hidden updates, people naturally ask, is this normal? And the answer is yes and no. It is normal for banks to upgrade systems. It is normal for them to test new technology. What is not normal is the level of silence accompanying these updates. Usually, banks highlight improvements to earn customer trust. But when updates are internal, deeply technical, and operational rather than visual, they don't want attention. Silent upgrades tend to focus on the infrastructure that customers never see. Internal processing, verification systems, back-end communication, and data networks. These are the systems that determine how quickly a bank can verify notes, settle international transactions, or detect fraudulent activity. It is these hidden systems that appear to be receiving the most attention right now. And when these systems are upgraded, it usually means banks expect heavier use, faster movement, or new requirements in the near future. That's why analysts consider these updates important. They show preparation for a busier, more connected, or more regulated financial future. Now let's talk about coordination, because it's not just one bank making changes. Multiple institutions are updating at the same time, which suggests the changes are not individual decisions but part of a broader, system-wide alignment. Banks often coordinate when new compliance standards are being introduced, when cross-institution communication needs to be strengthened, or when financial networks are preparing for large-scale policy shifts. This level of coordination is normally seen before major banking rule changes, before new digital settlement systems go live, or before reforms to verification and exchange protocols are implemented. To be clear, none of this confirms any specific event. But it does tell us that something requiring multi-bank readiness is being prepared for. Silent coordination only happens when institutions want everything in place without drawing public attention. It keeps the system stable, avoids unnecessary speculation, and ensures a smooth transition once the new operational rules become active behind the scenes. A major factor in all of this is verification technology. Banks rely on extremely advanced tools to authenticate notes, detect counterfeits, track currency movement, and register each transaction. When these verification systems are updated, it typically means new standards are being introduced or existing ones are being strengthened. These updates could involve improved digital imaging, faster database checks, stronger communication between banks, or more secure ways to record currency activity. Many analysts believe verification upgrades are at the core of these recent silent changes. This matters because verification is the first step in any currency exchange process. If banks strengthen their verification tools, it means they expect an increase in verification demands, new regulations requiring stronger ID procedures, or new technology that requires upgraded systems. Whatever the reason, verification upgrades are expensive and time-consuming, so banks do not perform them unless they expect a meaningful shift in future operations. Security is another major reason banks upgrade systems quietly. Financial institutions face constant cyber threats, attempted breaches, and fraudulent activity, so when banks introduce new security layers, They often do it quietly to avoid tipping off anyone who might attempt to exploit vulnerabilities during the transition. Silent updates make the system stronger without giving attackers any clues about the changes being made. But these updates appear to go beyond routine security patches. They involve deeper system restructuring, something that suggests banks want to secure not only their current operations but also new processes that might be introduced soon. Whenever large-scale security adjustments happen, analysts look for the broader context. And right now, the global financial world is transitioning toward faster settlement, digital integration, and updated regulation. That means banks must prepare their systems to stay ahead of threats and maintain stability, even as new financial processes come online. One of the most overlooked parts of this story is staff preparation. When banks update their systems, they must train employees on new protocols, new procedures, and new verification methods. Training usually happens quietly, internally, and without public attention. Employees must understand new workflows before they interact with customers. The fact that staff training is increasing across multiple institutions suggests that new operational procedures may be rolling out soon. Banks do not train staff without purpose. Training is expensive and time-consuming. It requires coordination, planning, and internal communication. So if staff across various institutions are being prepared for updated protocols, it means institutions are expecting real changes in how they operate behind the scenes. Whether it is related to faster digital settlements, stronger verification systems, or updated regulatory requirements, the preparation shows movement, not stagnation. Within the banking world, another key piece of the puzzle involves cross-bank communication. Banks must communicate with each other constantly, sending data, verifying transactions, confirming information, and settling accounts. When communication systems are upgraded, it means banks are preparing for increased data flow or updated requirements for information exchange. These upgrades often include faster networks, improved data security, and stronger verification layers between institutions. If multiple banks are updating these systems at the same time, it signals that new communication standards may be coming soon. These upgrades allow banks to handle larger volumes of data with greater accuracy and speed. The more demanding global financial regulations become, the more banks must enhance their internal communication systems. And if banks expect bigger responsibilities in the near future, they must prepare long before the public learns the details. Many viewers wonder whether these updates relate to currency exchange processes. While no specific evidence confirms that major exchange events are being prepared for, it is true that exchange systems are part of the infrastructure receiving upgrades. Exchange verification requires precise communication, accurate node authentication, and fully updated databases. When banks strengthen these areas, it typically signals that verification demands may increase or that new regulations will require stricter exchange procedures. This does not mean any specific currency is being prepared for a major change, but it does suggest that banks expect more activity, more regulation, or more complexity in how they handle foreign currency in the coming years. The financial world is evolving rapidly, and banks must evolve with it. Quiet preparation ensures that institutions are ready before the public begins to see changes in how exchanges are processed. Let's address the psychological factor. People naturally worry when they hear about secret bank updates. It creates uncertainty, speculation, and confusion. But in reality, quiet updates are often designed to protect the public from unnecessary stress. If banks announce major technical changes too early, it can create fear or panic, especially if customers misinterpret the purpose of the updates. Banks prefer stability. They want to avoid uncertainty. They want customers to feel confident. Silent upgrades allow institutions to strengthen their systems without triggering rumors or concerns. Once everything is ready, banks usually update their public documentation and explain the changes clearly, but that happens only after every test is complete. So if updates are happening now, it means institutions are still in the testing phase, preparing their systems carefully to avoid any disruption once the new standards become active. The global context is also important. Around the world, financial institutions are modernizing their networks, upgrading compliance systems, and preparing for changes in how money moves across borders. Faster payments, digital settlements, and new security requirements are becoming the standard in many regions. The U.S. banking system must keep up with these changes to remain competitive and compliant. That means integrating new forms of digital verification, updating cross-border settlement networks, and strengthening the internal structures that handle international transactions. Silent updates allow U.S. banks to adjust without public pressure or misunderstanding. The global financial landscape is shifting, and U.S. institutions are preparing themselves to operate efficiently within that new environment. One reason silent updates can take months is that banks must test every detail. A single technical failure can disrupt millions of transactions. That is why institutions test new systems in layers, quietly, slowly, and methodically. They simulate high-volume activity. They test verification processes. They adjust communication pathways. They test again. This approach eliminates errors before the updated system goes live. So if banks have been updating quietly for a long period, it does not mean something is wrong. Instead, it means they are being careful. They want to ensure there are no issues once the public begins using the new systems. This careful, hidden preparation is standard for major financial upgrades. One of the most interesting parts of these upgrades involves how banks handle documentation. Updated systems often require more accurate records, stronger customer identification, and improved tracking of currency activity. These documentation layers help banks comply with new regulations and prevent fraud. When banks strengthen documentation requirements, it usually indicates that new rules may be approaching, rules requiring more precise verification, more detailed transaction records, or more secure customer identification procedures. This affects currency exchange, account creation, large transfers, and many other processes. So if documentation systems are being upgraded quietly, it means banks want everything ready for the day new requirements officially take effect. Now let's talk about preparation for customers. While banks update internally, customers also need to stay prepared in their own way. That means keeping clear records, staying informed about policy changes, and understanding how banks may request updated identification or verification in the future. This doesn't mean expecting big events or guarantees. It simply means being organized, staying aware, and following official instructions when new rules are eventually introduced. Customers who stay alert and prepared manage transitions more easily, while those who ignore updates often face delays once new systems are in place. Many analysts argue that silent preparation is actually a positive sign. It shows that banks are taking financial stability seriously. They are strengthening their systems, coordinating with each other, and preparing for a more secure and modern financial future. Silent preparation means institutions want everything to run smoothly the moment new processes go live. It means they understand the importance of avoiding errors, confusion, or public panic. It means they want stability, order, and efficiency. While customers may not see the internal work being done, those updates are the reason financial systems remain safe and functional even during global uncertainty. A major question many viewers ask is when these upgrades will be complete. The truth is that financial institutions do not share timelines publicly. They do not reveal when internal systems will be finalized. They complete updates only when every test has passed. So the best approach for customers is patience. Silent preparation often takes months or even years. And the fact that banks are working quietly now shows that they are building systems meant to last long into the future, not systems created in haste. Once everything is ready, public information will follow, but only after every detail is secure. Another question is how these updates might affect global currency holders. While nothing specific has been announced regarding any currency, the strengthening of verification systems, documentation processes, and cross-bank communication suggests that exchange systems themselves are becoming more modernized. This modernization may improve accuracy, reduce fraud, and increase security in the long term. That is beneficial for anyone who participates in international transactions. But again, no guarantees can be made about specific currencies or events. The best approach for currency holders is to stay informed, stay organized, and follow official information when updates become public. One of the biggest takeaways from these silent updates is that movement is happening behind the scenes. The financial world is not standing still. Banks are not waiting passively. They are strengthening systems, preparing for future requirements, and upgrading their technology to match global standards. This level of quiet activity indicates readiness. It shows that institutions believe new demands are coming, and they want to be fully prepared before those demands arrive. Customers should see this as a sign of momentum, not worry. Banks are making sure they remain strong and stable during global financial changes. As we wrap up tonight's report, remember this: when banks operate quietly, it usually means they are working on something important, something large enough to require silence, testing, coordination, and preparation. These hidden updates point to a financial system evolving behind the scenes, adjusting itself to meet new global standards, new verification rules, and new security requirements. While we cannot predict specific outcomes, we can say this confidently: the financial world is changing, and U.S. banks are positioning themselves for the future. For viewers, the best approach is awareness, organization, and patience. Stay informed, keep your records clear, and be ready to adapt when official public updates finally arrive. Quiet preparation is not a sign of chaos. It is a sign of structure, planning, and progress. Something is shifting in the financial world, and tonight we brought you the facts you need to understand what may come next. Stay tuned, stay alert, and stay prepared, because the next stage of global financial modernization is already underway behind the scenes.